What's going on, guys? Bart here with Tully Television, and today we're going to be getting into a comic book review. But before we get into that, I want to remind you how awesome and amazing all of you are. I hope that all of you are having a great day, and if not, stick in there because there's always going to be better times ahead. I want to wish all of you guys a happy holidays. Christmas and Hanukkah are in full swing at this time, and whatever holiday you celebrate or don't celebrate, let Tully Television wish you a happy day today, and may the end of your year end spectacularly wonderful, and the start of 2026 continues that trend. But we're getting into the initial reason why I started this channel many years ago now, like 5 years ago now at this point, and that's to review a comic book. Uncanny X-Men issue 14, part 204 of the Dark Artery story that we're covering. Now, before I continue with this particular review, I kind of want to give a heads up for those of you who may have been following my reviews of this book. I'm going to be wrapping up uh, my review of this book in a couple of issues. Basically, by issue 16, that's going to be the last issue I get for the time being to review. Um, the following story out of this series and some other things had made me feel like it's not going to be a book I want to necessarily collect anymore on a regular basis. Um, Even though I've liked early on the writing of Gail Simone in this book, and I was very excited about the newer characters being introduced, I'm feeling like it's starting to drag a little bit at this point, and with the next story coming out, it's about the next story coming out after this Dark Artery story is about a horror mutant movie that it has all the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men underwears in a bunch, saying it's the worst thing that has happened to mutants. A mutant horror movie is the worst thing since ever in mutant history. That's how Wolverine is taking this new problem after this story. Wolverine is saying that a horror movie is one of the worst things that can happen to mutant kind. And that when I had found that out, uh, I'm not sure if it's in issue 17, 18, something like that. But when I kind of came across that um, in my like catching up with the story here, the title, it threw me off. And I said to myself that when I come closer to that story, I'm going to remove myself from reviewing the series because just that premise alone, I'm done. And I will say, for those things, for Gail Simone, I have liked what you did so far, but that premise alone, you made me just immediately take myself out of this series. And that's an unfortunate thing because there's some things I could still see the potential with these characters and the interaction with our older characters and these newer characters, but I'm not going to pretend that that's an intriguing idea. I'm not going to pretend I'm going to like that idea. And I don't get to go to a comic book store regularly, so I have to do a lot of my ordering of comic books through eBay, which is meaning like I'm kind of paying twice for one issue because of the shipping. I get that's not anyone's problem. That's a me thing. That's a me problem. But I'm not paying double for issues, basically, for something so silly of a thought process that a movie is going to be one of the greatest things, worst things to ever happen to mutant kind. You got Sentinels, you got the humanity against mutants, the Great and Creed group there, Friends Against Humanity or something like that. I'm forgetting the name of that group, but there's so many groups and mutant hunting sentinels and other mutants that want mutant supremacy that the X-Men are trying to get in the way. That's going to be so severely impossible for me to believe that the movie's going to be the end of mutant kind. The premise is so wacky and out of there. I'm going to be done after this, after issues 14 and 15 with this. I already have plans on another series that I'm going to be covering in its place. We're still going to be doing Absolute Batman. And yeah, so let's just get into this. Basically, this issue gives us more history, origin of Lady Henrietta, who she calls herself the guardian of the Penumbra, the Penumbra, Penumbra. Okay, and it also deals with uh, learning the truth about one of the kids and the left eye of Agamotto that Gambit has. But basically, we start off with Lady Henrietta. She's on a trip to bring her mother's ashes back to Haven, Louisiana, New Orleans, and you see this little M symbol there that lets her know that George here is here to pick her up and bring her to where she needs to go. And we have these two old school timey CIA, FBI style agents that are going to follow them. Then we come up with Death Dream explaining who Man-Thing is and basically telling him that in order to proceed to where they need to go, they need to approach Man-Thing without fear and tell him everything about themselves. And we do that. We have Ransom Tongue about himself, Jitter, Death Dream, Calico, and he's giving Calico a hard time because she's not being truthful with something. And basically, we find out that her horse Ember had died in the house fire all that time ago that made her family die and everything. And whatever the horse is, whatever the current version of Ember is, she's not sure what it is because the original Ember is gone. Okay, the original horse named Ember is deceased. And so whatever this horse is that she uses that we do see is some sort of manifestation of her powers. Which, alright, I think that's a pretty cool idea in a way. It's still not explaining what her powers are. I guess that she can just, her and the horse can do anything she puts her mind to, I guess. And finally, we see Jitter consoling her because, as we've seen in the pages of this title, they seem to be falling in love or at least having a crush on each other type of thing. We pick up Sadarang and Gambit in the Savage Land, and Gambit explains why he's not afraid of Sadarang when asked. He asks Gambit one more time, will you give up the left eye of Agamotto before you become a cannibal and eat everyone that you love, okay? He's saying no. But little does Rogue know that he was on his way to drop Gambit off at home anyway, and she tries to fight the dragon. And not saying she doesn't get a couple of hits on him, She does. But as Gambit is talking about how he loves Rogue, sometimes she acts without thinking, and he's so appreciative of basically of her. But when she gets angry, oh boy, she gets angry. That there's a week out of every month that he has to watch out how he talks too loud for her because of that 1 week out of the month with her. Period joke. A period joke. Okay, I guess. I mean, and that's just if a man said that, if a man wrote that, oh yeah, like he'd almost be harassed by some fans for being so dismissive over women and their monthlies and their cycles. I'm sure that it's not the most fun thing to go through as a woman, but um, so it's almost making like a woman sound irrational for a week out of, so there's 12 weeks out of the year, a full third of the year where she acts irrational. That's a little presumptuous in my opinion, but who am I? I'm only but a small town bird lawyer. He gets a little done, and as they show up at the Haven House, everyone's confused about what's going on, and that's before Saturn puts her on ice, so to speak. He makes a little joke about the dragon makes a little joke about Gambit's going to eat them, and Wolverine comes out to free Rogue from her ice block as the dragon takes off. Now, finally, we catch up with Lady Henrietta as she is on her road to where she's going. She notices that there's a lot of children being given up because the children's families are poor and are giving up their children by by masses. And she acknowledges that they're like her. They're both trying to find a new home and in hopes to find some peace. But when they get to the end of the road, George, the fellow who's helping her, gets shot, and she changes into this being, so to speak, right? And it's said even that she's a mutate to off her, right? And so we can kind of see how her powers manifest, and that she's able to control this being. And it looks like the being is separate from her because it's showing her and then this creature. So I wonder what she's summoning when she's using her powers. And then she takes out, the agents or whatever, the government agents or whatever like that. And then finally near the end, Death Dream was talking about how he was being called here and that he initially thought it was the character Sarah. Sarah Gaunt, you remember that from the first storyline? Charles Xavier's old girlfriend, his first girlfriend. But being that she was taken and being held captive, they realized it wasn't her, or he realized it wasn't her, and calling herself the guardian of, again, the Penumbra, it's Lady Henrietta. And this is how she's looking in current time. And that's where the issue ends. Like I said, we will wrap this storyline up. And then after issue 16 is when we're going to finish covering this title for the time being. When I kind of again heard about what the story was after this, that's when I kind of decided to still collect and review Absolute Batman. But after this Dark Artery story, I'm at least done with this X-Men title for the time being. it's getting to a point where X-Men books are becoming or have become a little stale, a little. I was. If you go back to some of the reviews we were doing during the Age of Krakoa, oh man, we had Way of X, we had Sons of X, we had Legion of X, we had other stories going on that was so much more exciting. I even have this here that I've been reading that friend of the channel Jordan had gifted me, House of X. This is more exciting than what's in store here or what's been going on there with this title. Because it's exciting for me to learn about these newer characters, but at the same time, it doesn't seem to really be progressing in any real sort of direction, so to speak. Um, I don't know. That's just my opinion. You let me know so far what you have thought of this Dark Artery story, and what are you thinking about the Uncanny X-Men issues that we've been covering. Let me know down below. And until next time, peace, Snookums.